Andrew Marchand, John Alran have a fantastic podcast on sports business. Those are the two guys that cover it. Marchand for the New York Post and Alran for the for Sports Business Journal. And they were kind of confused by the tact the Pac-12 has taken announcing there's more people at the table.
Yeah, I mean, they dropped a clip on one of the Twitter feeds a couple hours ago, and I didn't see it until, it was on the way over here, but I was able to check it out, and it was a very interesting clip where I think it was, now I'm getting them confused in my head. I think it was Marchand. Marchand was talking about the Pac-12 deal and what was said by George Kliavkoff last Friday in Las Vegas, and the basic gist of it from his standpoint was that it's just a sort of weird strategy to go up there on stage and tell a bunch of people that the conference is going to end up with a better deal from their TV partners because of the waiting game. It was just kind of like, that's just a weird thing to say when the TV partners are still negotiating with you and you're basically bragging about the fact that you're going to get a sweeter deal because you're dragging it out or it's being dragged out for one reason or another, which I hadn't really thought about it that way, but the way he phrased it, and he probably phrased it better than I did, it's actually under Andrew Marchand's, I think it was Andrew Marchand that said it now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, Andrew Marchand's Twitter, it's one of his last couple of tweets, the little clip of that, but he just said, it's just kind of a weird strategy to go up there with no deal in hand, talk about what a great deal you're getting, especially the longer you wait, it's going to be more lucrative. And then meanwhile, your TV partners potentially are sitting there listening to this like, really, you're bragging about like this deal and how you're going to get this sweet benefit while we're sitting here negotiating with you. It is, when you look at it that way, just kind of a strange tactic, especially when you still don't have anything in hand. And so really the message wasn't anything in terms of information. It was more just his reaction to that from Kliavkoff, as well as just he doesn't see where it's coming from. He doesn't see where this magical deal that is going to be like super satisfactory is coming from. Now, he's like a lot of other people like us that are saying like, look, we have no idea what's going to happen in the long run. I know we all have our opinions on what we think will happen. I know there's a lot of just like throw stuff out there, and then if it doesn't say, oh, I didn't say that, or if it does, see, I told you so, and I don't think we want to play that game. So that's why I said the other day, is in regards to UConn, like I could be totally wrong, but I don't think they're joining the conference right now, even though there's a ton of smoke. I don't know if that's even accurate. Even though there's a lot of Twitter chatter about it over the weekend for some reason. So I still maintain that, and I'll be glad to eat crow, like I said. But that's my opinion on the matter, and it's not a report. It's my opinion. And so his opinion was, I still just don't see where this deal's coming from. And he's kind of just like us, I think, wondering what that's going to look like, where that's going to come from, and what that's going to entail. Garrett,
I have the video. Do y'all want me to play it?
Yeah.
Can we play it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take a shot.
All right, here we go.
The way that this story is unfolding, this is how it ends in a not a great way for the Pac-12, right? Because their presidents have put out a lot of deadlines and said we're going to have a deal and we like a deal. And then, I wrote months ago, watch Colorado. Now there's a lot of watch UConn as well as Colorado. You look at it and you wonder where this deal is coming from, because when there's reports saying that there's other entities involved, like someone had the other day, Fox, and like Fox is not really involved, and Fox would, I think they would do a very advantageous deal for Fox, which I don't know if that keeps even the conference together, like how that works exactly. So I don't know where, like none of these stories say a network. They just say that there's nothing to worry about, it's going to happen, but they don't tell you where. So my question to you, John Oran, master of sports business media, where are they getting this deal from, in your opinion?
I mean, if he was reading off the teleprompter, I've covered media deals for a long time. It's sort of my stock and trade. I love covering these rights deals. Like, you don't want to talk about, the longer we hold out, the better the deal gets. I mean, you're almost taunting the people that you're trying to do deals with. It's a bizarre strategy to try to see this over the finish line. So will the Pac-12 get a deal? Yes. Will it be a deal that keeps the Pac-12 intact? That's I don't know the answer to that.
If I'm like,
I'll just a mix of guys there.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah, I'll make my prediction. I think it's going to be Apple. I do. I think
Okay.
it's going to be Apple. I think that they're always the conference that is, for better or worse, willing to take that chance. And if it's, especially really when you get down to it, you can maybe take the risk on the lack of exposure if you get the dollar figure you want.
Sure you can.
Because that can maybe bridge the gap, and you can see what the lack of exposure really is. So you're going to do a 5 or 6 year grant of rights from 2024 to 2029 or 2030. And that should give enough time to have a reasonable, like, did this really affect recruiting? Does it not? And then you might see all of a sudden a mad dash. And that's very optimistic for the Pac-12 to think that they're going to, I think it's a little too early for that to make the switch. But look, right now, I think that they need to make a concession over what's more important, the overall dollar figure or checking off a lot of boxes. And right now, I think it's the overall dollar figure. And even if that puts you technically in fourth, even if Apple comes in and goes, we want it all, here's our overall dollar figure, you're in fourth or fifth or what, but you're within shouting range of the other Power 5 leagues, then I think that probably gets it done for the Pac-12. Now, if you have a feeling about that, like, well, it only checked the money box. It doesn't check the exposure box. And it doesn't check this box. Then that would get tied up. But I think that they're going to have to start making some concessions as opposed to having a checklist and giving it to George Kliavkoff and going, make sure that it has all these things in it. Because I don't think they're at that point. So, look, if John Alran tells me they're going to get a deal, I'll take it from him over every single other person that could.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I'd much rather hear that from those guys than anybody else and take it to the bank a lot more. I do think that that's as much speculation and opinion though as it is anything else. That's not reporting. That is also them just giving their 2 cents like we give our 2 cents. And that's not saying that, so like he still said he thinks that they get a deal. It's just a matter. So I think it's very interesting. I don't know if it's because the season's on the horizon or what. I know Jason Scheer had a tweet that was very interesting. So it's hard to kind of see through the smoke and see what's like just hype online and what is actually like fire behind the scenes, because I feel like we've been here, done that a few times. But given what occurred at Media Days and just given the timeline of where we are now, it's very interesting to see that we're even in this spot. And, it does allow, like we've always kind of said, the longer this drags out, the more that it allows for speculation and for things to potentially go wrong. And you can agree or disagree with that, but I think that's pretty obvious that, the longer you drag it out, the more of an opportunity and the more time there is for something to go off the rails for you. Now, having said that, I still think, the majority of it, if not all of it, stays together. I know there's all this heat about Colorado this week. I'm kind of like, if something doesn't happen this week, I don't want to hear about them ever again with the Big 12. Like I'm so just at my wit's end with this whole thing. But
just do it, don't do it, and send me a press release when you're doing it. And if so you are.
We'll shout out our boy Jason Scheer here, who did put this out in regards to Colorado. And so take it for what it's worth. I mean, everybody's got their different feelings on who they believe or not. But you wonder, like, why is this week different than any other week, right? Because that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like the UConn thing that, had a few people asking about that. We've addressed that now and would be happy to be wrong and would congratulate the Huskies. But I just don't see the need for it, honestly. I don't think it does the Big 12 a whole lot of good. I really don't. And that's not a disrespect to their program. They just won a national title in basketball. What do they need the Big 12 basketball footprint for? They just won the Natty. Why do they need Kansas and Baylor and whatever to make them better? They don't. They don't need that. I mean, if they just want to play a crazy schedule in a different part of the country that's far less feasible financially, I get that's the piece that maybe you would move towards, but I don't know that the basketball piece is so healthy that you're like, yeah, let's uproot our national championship men's and women's basketball programs and move them to farther away road trips and all that for a few $1 million more. I'm going to need some more explanation on that for why that makes sense for either side, really. But with the Colorado thing, that lingers, and Jason Scheer said, for what it's worth, I haven't been able to confirm. There's been a rumor, so again, it's a rumor, that the Big 12 has a deadline. The Colorado has a Big 12 deadline of sorts, and that's why the whole thing is picking up this week. I've noted that, he's pointed out, and I've seen other Big 12 fans point out like that the messaging seems to be different, coming from the Pac in regards, which I get. That's all eye of the beholder. Again, that could be taken however you want to take it. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be some expert here, but there is that. So if I don't hear something by the end of the week based on all of this, what I'm saying is I don't want to hear about it anymore, honestly, with the Buffs. Or there better be something that is like near explosion, like the timeline, like there's an actual clock that's ticking down to like a firm date, and then we can continue talking about it. But beyond that, I'm kind of over that chapter and feel like it's going to just end up with everybody where they are already. And the Pac moving about how they want to potentially adding teams. But those are kind of the heat of the moment things going on. And it's always good to hear, a couple of guys like Marchand and Auerand who don't have a dog in the fight either way. They're just guys covering the game. It's interesting to hear them talk about it. So, that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. That Colorado is the worst team in the Pac-12 for the last few years maybe not by a long shot because Arizona has been struggling too. But Colorado's 1-11 last year. And for the last 6 to 8 months, they have dominated the conversation because they hired the most famous possible person you could hire to be their head coach. Outside of like J-Lo is your new head coach here at Colorado. We're going to see if it works. Ben Affleck will be here sometimes. And then all the realignment things, which it doesn't, at least PR-wise, do them any good to be like, to just completely say no. So people are talking about Colorado, and that's the most talked about 1-11 team in the history of 1-11 teams.
Yeah, and I'm just hesitant to really dive in and believe too much of that. Just, I feel like there have been a lot of times where there's just been stuff that's been made up to keep the cycle churning, or there's stuff where I guess just people have bad sources or whatever the case may be. And that's not a knock. That's just like kind of just the 2 years that's been talking about this. Okay. There's been some shoddy reporting at times. There's been a lot of deadlines that came and went that meant absolutely nothing. There's been a lot of meetings that fizzled out and turned into nothing. And there's been some things maybe along the way that actually had some substance to them. But yeah, it's hard to kind of see through some of that stuff. And so I maintain the opinion that I had earlier this week about UConn. I just don't see the benefit, as I just explained a moment ago. The Colorado thing, I suppose until they say for sure that, but they said last week they reaffirmed their commitment, so I don't buy that either. I think that they're waiting on a TV deal, and I guess my opinion on it is it's probably, I guess it may not be as great as people expected it to be, for those who expected it to be better than those who thought it was going to be a shoddy deal. But I still don't believe that that's enough to actually cause any major changes. Does that make sense? That's kind of where I am on this whole thing. And that's really where I've been pretty much the entire time. I think I've probably given a bit more of an optimistic tone at various points over the last year for the Pac-12's potential to land a deal. But now here we are, and it's like, okay, like if it's like, what could it possibly be at this point? So throw that out of the way. It's a lot of noise once again, but again, we've been here 50 times in the last 2 years. So why is this any different? Maybe there's a deadline from the Big 12, as he alluded to. Maybe there's not. By the end of the week, I hope there's some put up or shut up in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way,